welcome to episode 68 of the Craft House Magic podcast. My name's Ellie and I'm coming to you from Norwich in Norfolk in the UK, and today is the 30th of May. So welcome everybody, thanks for joining me. I think we've got a little bit of a shorter podcast today because I haven't got as much to talk about, but who knows, I might waffle on about all sorts. So you can find me on Instagram, Ravelry, Facebook as Craft House Magic. Don't forget to come along to the Ravelry groups to chat along with the knit-alongs that we're doing and just general natter really. It's quite a nice community over there. We have the spring shawl along going on at the moment, which is a collaboration with Caroline from the Love to Sew podcast and I. And we have decided to extend the shawl along until the end of June. So if you haven't finished your shawl, don't worry. You have a little bit longer to put your finished objects in the finished objects thread. And if you fancy to cast it on another shawl, just come and join us. So the discussion threads in my Ravelry group and the finished objects threads in Caroline's, and I'll leave links in the show notes to those pages. So I have a website, crafthousemagic.co.uk, where you can find the show notes. So if you go to crafthousemagic.co.uk, on the left hand side there's a menu and the show notes is linked in there. I've also got an online shop which is on the same website as well. And I sell all things related to knitting really, so if you're interested in that. I'd like to say thank you to the people who purchased my project bag pattern for the drawstring and the zipped bags last week. I was so overwhelmed by the response, that was really lovely, and already people have started producing some beautiful bags with lovely fabrics. If you follow the hashtag CraftHouseMagic bag pattern, you can see some of those, and that's on Instagram. I'm also going to be starting a sock along in the middle of June, so watch out for that. So get your sock yarns ready for the summer sock along. I started doing this when I first started doing the podcast, so I thought I'd call it the same thing. So I think this time any socks can be included, as long as they're sort of adult ones. So I'd love to see what yarns you've chosen, and what I'll do is I'll open the thread in the middle of June so you can start chatting about what you're going to be making for the summer sock along. Right, so we also have the meetup that I'm organising. So the 21st of July, we're having a meetup in Norwich City, and the venue I've chosen at the moment is Harriet's Cafe Tea Room. But depending on how many people want to attend, it may change. So keep watching the podcast or keep an eye out in the Ravelry group for the Norwich meetup, in the Norwich meetup thread. And that's the 21st of July at 12 till 3. And hopefully quite a few people can come. That'll be a lovely day, or sort of lunchtime. It's a Sunday, so if you work, that'll be ideal for you. I think I finished rambling on today. I'm in a proper rambly mood, aren't I? So we've got some knitting. I've got the blast from the past, and I've got my shop update, so it's quite a short one. So there's quite a lot of shameless self-promotion at the end, I'm afraid, with my shop update, as Amy Beth says. But if you don't want to stick around for that, you can just stop watching. So let's get on with the good stuff. So let's start with the knitting section. So last week I showed you I'd started the Vertices Unite shawl, and I've basically done all the sections, so it's almost a finished object. I just need to do the I-cord edging around the outside. And last night, about halfway through the evening, I finished my Vertices Unite panels, and I thought, well, I can't start on the edging because I won't be able to sort of hold it out to show you. There are threads or pieces of yarn hanging everywhere from it because I have lots of ends to weave in. And also I've got some yarn holding some stitches so that I can pick those up ready for my I-cord bind off. And it is actually huge. I've realised, I think I've knitted this in 2 weeks. It's crazy. It's all garter stitch basically though, with some sort of short rows to do each of the panels. But I'm in love with it so far. I was a bit worried that it wasn't going to be big enough, but I think that's going to be perfect. I can sort of test it out, although it's not got the I-cord edging finished and there are some needles still on it, but lovely size. I do like a big shawl. So I'll just tell you what colours I used. So these are all my own hand-dyed yarns. So this is section 1 here, and there are 2 colours that are striped. I love those 2 together. So it's You Can't Hurry Love, which is like a corally pinky colour with some black or dark grey speckles, striped with Here Comes the Rain Again, which is a very pale grey tonal with some speckles in it as well. So that's how that's knitted up. Then section 2, I've striped the Living on a Prayer, which is this darker colour, with Dress You Up. Look how untidy my ball is. It's been bouncing around in my bag and it's a bit of a mess, but you can get the idea. So that's Dress You Up, and that's a beigey colour with some pink and coral speckles, and you can just about see those speckles in there even though it's striped with the darker grey. This one is the Only You colourway, and it's a pale corally pink with some turquoise and blue speckles, which is this one. There we go. That's section 3. Section 4 is Dress You Up on its own, and you can see how that's knitted up now. You can see the delicate little pink and coral speckles in the beige background, and that's that one again. And section 5, I've got myself in a tangle, is the 2 greys mixed together, the darker grey, which is Living on a Prayer, and the paler grey tonal with the speckles is Here Comes the Rain Again. You can see where my stitches are still on waste yarn. And then finally I've used the You Can't Hurry Love colourway on its own, which is a corally pink with some grey speckles in, and then that's this one again. You can tell that I've used this a lot, and I'm thinking I'm going to be using the You Can't Hurry Love, the pale grey, to do the I-cord bind off around the edges. So that's lovely. So you can just see where I've still got my needles in the knitting, but I'm needing those stitches to do the I-cord bind off, so that'll be lovely. Really excited about wearing this. Hopefully I can get all that I-cord done by next week, and I'll be able to wear it and show you on the podcast for next week. So the yarn base that I've used out of my shop is the sparkly one, and it's difficult to see without being in sort of direct sunlight, but there are sparkly bits of stellina in there. That's 5% stellina on a merino base. That's nice and soft and squishy. I don't think you can beat a lovely squishy soft yarn for a shawl. So I don't know if I actually mentioned, so the Vertices Unite is a Stephen West pattern. But I'm sure you all know that already, plus I showed it last week, even though I'm messing up the order of things. So last night, because I couldn't do my I-cord, I had to cast on another project. And seeing as the spring shawl along is being extended till the end of June, I thought, how better than to cast on another shawl? So I picked this as a sort of, well, it wasn't a kit really, but I picked this pattern up from Edinburgh Yarn Festival. And I think I'm taking my sort of Welsh speaking experience, not that I speak much Welsh, but never mind, but I say Llawened, but it's obviously not pronounced like that because it's European rather than Welsh. You'll have to tell me how to pronounce it. And there's a lovely big diagram in the middle of how it's going to look. I love this cable detail, and it looks as if there's lots of sort of plain knitting in between, so that once you've done that cable it should be quite easy to sort of follow. I picked up some yarn from Edinburgh Yarn Festival, and it's a beautiful, beautiful sort of tealy grey colour. I've got a bit of fluff there. Tealy grey colour. And you can see that the yarn is a grey base, and then they've sort of over-dyed it with this teal. So it's got some beautiful depth to it. And the yarn is from, it was from Isolde as well, and the pattern's from Isolde's stall. If you don't know what Isolde is, you should check out isolde.com. Lovely, lovely yarns and patterns too. And I picked up this yarn. Goodness knows how you pronounce this. But I think that's pencil yarn. Pelsil yarn? You can laugh at my awful pronunciation. But that's the yarn that I've picked up. And it's in the colourway Turkis, I think. I shall show you the back of the label as well. And it's 100 grams skein, and there is 350 metres to the ball. So I think it's probably about a sport weight, judging from that, because normally fingering weight is about 400 metres per 100 grams. So it says it needed a sport for the pattern, and because it's a short, it doesn't matter too much. And I didn't bother gauge swatching, which is me really naughty, but do you know what? Sometimes you just have to go wild. And I should show you how much I've actually knitted. So I've only done a few rows, but you cast on the sort of longer edge with the rib. So I've done some very interesting ribbing. It's not quite big enough to wear yet. Still be quite attractive though. That colour goes really well with my cardigan. That is going to go beautifully with my cardigan when it's finished. Lovely. Anyway, that is all my knitting that I've got to show you, because I've been concentrating on my shawl so much. We went over to my parents for the weekend, so I just literally took my Vertices Unite shawl to knit on. So I got quite a bit done, but it doesn't look as if I've done much because I've only been working on one project. I'm looking forward to this weekend though, because I've got a weekend of not going anywhere, so I'll be able to do some sewing in the mornings, so that'll be lovely. I always do a couple of hours of sewing in the morning, but when Adam gets up a bit later than me, so that's quite nice. So that's the knitting section done. So I've just got blast from the past, and then afterwards I'll talk about my shop update. So I'll have to get Barbara to come in to show you what she's wearing. Come on, Barbara. Thank you very much indeed, Barbara. So as you can see, Barbara is wearing another one of my grandma's dresses. I'll probably keep on showing these until I've gone through her whole wardrobe, because otherwise I'll be running out of blast from the past. I'm cheating a bit doing somebody else's blast from the past, but so this dress was made by my nanny, who incidentally was the same name as me. I'm named after my nanny. Her name was Eleanor, but her name was Eleanor Blanche and I'm Eleanor Rachel. I'm sure you'd like to know that. Little bit of useless information. So this was made by my Auntie Norma for my nanny, and I think that this actually becomes stained. Whether that's become stained in the wardrobe, I don't know, because it's been in the wardrobe for 40 years. There is a little bit of a stain just on the top there, but it's nice to see a piece that my auntie made for my nanny anyway. I love this pattern. This panel at the front is absolutely beautiful. So flattering for a waist, but that's if you've actually got a waist, unlike me. But it's beautiful. I love this. And using the two different fabrics, I think that works really, really well. There is another seam line here, so you could possibly do just the waistline in a different fabric if you wanted to. I noticed actually there is a few versions of this dress in my nanny's wardrobe with different lengths of sleeve as well, which is nice, which I shall show you in the coming weeks. But it's another sort of lovely A-line skirt, which I think is such a flattering shape. And this one's long sleeved, and it's made from a sort of a knit fabric. Somebody did actually tell me what this was called in the previous podcast, because one of her other dresses was made out of a similar material from the 70s. But it's got a little bit of stretch, so actually Barbara, because she's got a bigger bust, she can still fit in it, which is quite nice. It's got some really nice darts on the front here. And you've got the zip up the back. And I can see how she's done some really nice hand stitching to sew that zip into place. And it's a little bit tight on Barbara, so it does stick out a little bit. Bless her. Again, there's some darts on the back as well as up on the shoulders there to give some nice shaping. This one isn't lined. I don't know whether... But she's used some lovely bias binding to enclose the seam on the hem there, just to neaten it off really nicely. And she has actually used an overlocker. They didn't actually have overlockers at home, so they must have borrowed one from somewhere. I know my my other auntie was also, she actually made wedding dresses for a living, so she may well have borrowed the overlocker from work. So I think this is really lovely. I think the stripy fabric works really well with the plain fabric at the bottom, and I really want one of these dresses. I'm going to look on the internet while I'm editing this podcast to see whether I can find what pattern it is, because it's absolutely gorgeous. One of the previous patterns that Elizabeth said one of my nanny's dresses was previously, I actually got hold of it on the internet, so that's on its way. So that'll be one of my confessions next week, hopefully, as long as it arrives in time. So I'm going to try and see if I can get hold of this pattern as well, because I think that would be a really nice make. Thank you very much, Barbara. So I'm afraid that's the end of the sort of things I've been making that aren't for the shop. But we've got some information on my shop update, which is tomorrow, and it'll be the 31st of May at 7 o'clock British Summer Time. And I'll have a few things that I'm going to show you just now. So if you're not interested in seeing what I've got in my shop update, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I shall see you next week, hopefully. So let's show you what I've got in the shop update. So what I've tried to do is stock the shop up with all the yarn colourways that I've been knitting in my Vertices Unite, in case any of you guys wanted to get hold of that. So that's Only You, trying to hold all the yarn, You Can't Hurry Love, Dress You Up, Here Comes the Rain Again, and Living on a Prayer. So they are, I do supply it on different bases. So my standard base is a 75-25 merino nylon base, and then I've got some stellina, which is the one I've been knitting in my shawl in. And then I do have a BFL, which is a nice high twist BFL, which is 80% BFL, 20% nylon. Then I've also got some merino singles, which I haven't actually picked up here, but obviously you know what singles are. And I also have an MCN base, which is a merino cashmere and nylon base, which has 80% merino, 10% nylon and 10% cashmere. So there we are. That's the yarn that's going in the shop. And I have a couple of sets that I've also made up. Last time I showed you that I'd got some yarn ball fabric, and I've actually got a full set of things. So with the DPN case, circular needle case, notions pouch and the bag as well. So before, I think I only had the scissor case and the bag, but I've got that all in there. I will pop a picture up here so that you can see the full set, just to save me holding it all up, because I'm going to show you another set now. I have made a new design which is in the theme of the dragonfly, and I've done an applique dragonfly with free motion veins on the wings and details on the body, with one of these sort of dandelions next to it, because I love that sort of shape. This is a medium sized bag that I've done this on, because there's quite a lot of free motion there to fit on a smaller one. And it's got this beautiful, I don't think you can see how, oh there we go, it's catching the light now. It's like it's got gold in the print, and it's the dragonfly wings all on the inside. I might have to get a picture up here so that you can see it a little bit better. There's a lot of shadow in my craft room at the moment. I'm going to have to get some studio lights, I think. So it's made of a beautiful royal blue fabric, and I've just embroidered crafthousemagik.co.uk with a little mini dragonfly on the back. With free motion embroidery. I do love a bit of free motion, and I want to get lots more free motion sort of style bags in my shop. I shall show you this with a bit of yarn in so that you can see how it looks. So I shall put let's put the 5 skeins in that I just showed you to see how it looks. So you can see that fits 5 skeins in nicely, and then there with the drawstring shut. There we go, so that's the dragonfly bag. I am going to do some zipped ones as well, that will be done pre-order, but the turnaround for that's normally a week to 2 weeks, so that'll be in my shop. And I have the dragonfly fabric scissor cases. I've got the notions pouches, and again I've got the yarn ball version of the notions pouches as well. DPN case, and lastly a circular needle case where you put your circular needles into this hole and this rolls up and you use the elastic to hook it onto the button, and then it keeps your circular needles safe. So there we go, there's that as well. So I will pop a picture up of the full collection on here so that you can see what they look like as well. So I think that's it for today. A load of shameless self-promotion, I'm sorry, but I hope you enjoyed watching today's programme. And again, I'm going to say, don't forget to like and subscribe because it's a total habit. And I shall hopefully see you next week.